Hi everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, The Countdown to ETAs. My name is Michelle, and I'm just here to get things started before passing the mic off to our expert today. So for those of you who are not familiar with WordStream, we are a search marketing software provider, and we have a ton of free and paid tools that can very easily help you grow your AdWords, Bing, and even Facebook campaigns. So if you're looking to learn a little bit more about us, you can just head to our website, wordstream.com, and if you're interested in learning a little bit more about PPC after today's webinar, you can check out all of our free tools and resources at wordstream.com/learn. And now just for a few logistics before we get into the webinar, you all will receive a recorded version of today's presentation via email. And that will include the slide deck as well, so feel free to share that along with your team. We also encourage you to be social, so you can join in on the conversation on Twitter, and you can see our presenter, Mark's handle, right there for you. And then finally, but very importantly, we will be saving time for Q&A at the end of the presentation, so be sure to submit your questions throughout the webinar today, and we will definitely make sure to give Mark some time to get to those. And now it is my pleasure to introduce today's presenter. Mark Irvine is a senior data scientist here at WordStream. He has over 4 years in paid search, and he was recently voted the 14th most influential PPC expert of 2016. This is one of Mark's favorite topics, and we love to hear him present on it. So with that, I will pass you off to Mark.
Thanks, Michelle. So, guys, first of all, thank you all for attending today. In case you're not familiar, let's talk a little bit about what the big deal is, why we're having this webinar. And so, if you've been doing paid search for a while now, and I imagine a lot of you have been doing paid search for a while, from 2000 to 2016, our paid search ads have always looked the same way. And they've had this very 25-character headline, 35-character description line, 35-character description line flow to this. And we've written quite literally millions of ads this way over the past 16 years. But earlier this year, in July, Google rolled out these expanded text ad formats. And so there are a couple of noticeable differences between the two ad formats. Obviously, the expanded text ads, as the name implies, are larger. The first headline moves from being 25 characters to 35 characters. So we gain 5 characters in just that aspect right there. Then there is this new second headline. All of our ads now have 2 headlines. And that adds an additional 30 characters right there. Our display URL is no longer just our domain name, a 35-character vanity URL. Now it is our domain name, and we have the opportunity to add in 2 15-character path fields, giving us a chance to customize our display URL with up to 30 characters of additional text beyond just our URL. And then our description text goes from being 2 35-character fields totaling 70 characters to now being one 80-character long field, giving us an additional 10 characters right there as well. So all said and done, the expanded text ads are exactly that. They're an expanded text ad format. And so what's the big deal? The big deal is that these new ads are, quite frankly, bigger. They are 47% bigger, so they're almost 50% bigger, just in the amount of characters that they allow you to play with. These text ads go from being 90-character tidbits to almost full tweets, about 140 characters long. So that's great, and as you'd expect, putting these old text ads next to these new expanded text ads, because they're bigger, because they take up more room on the SERP, because they're more optimized for mobile, all of this, just naturally, your eyes are going to be drawn towards these larger text ads, and you'd expect that more people would click on these text ads, both because they're larger and because they have more room to say more things in them. And that's actually what we're seeing in terms of people's accounts. Google, when they first announced this, they expected it to increase people's click-through rates by roughly 20%. When we look through our 18,000 profiles and their experience with expanded text ads, we're seeing, for the most part, that the median click-through rate gain that people are having from these expanded text ads comparing the expanded text ads to the older standard text ads, people have an average of 28% click-through rate gain. Some people are seeing double or triple or quadruple that click-through rate gain just by moving to the expanded text ads as opposed to those standard text ad formats. And so that's great. Why would we have a webinar for more than just say this is great? Why isn't this just a 10-minute conversation? Be like expand text ads. They're great. What's the caveat here? And so the big catch here is that these standard text ads, the past 16 years of your ad copy testing, all these ads you've written before in that standard text ad format are going to start disappearing soon. And specifically, the date we're looking at is January 31st of next year. Is going to be the last day that you will either be able to create new standard text ads or edit existing standard text ads. Starting February 1st of 2017, you'll only be able to create and edit expanded text ads moving forward. And the long-term plan is that those standard text ads will stop serving. They'll depreciate. So open your calendars. Write a sticky note right now. January 31st is kind of the drop-dead date that you need to plan for in terms of your standard text ads. And so that's a significant change. If you've been using these standard text ads for the past 16 years, then you're used to a certain flow and a certain way of managing your ad copy and updating your ads in your accounts. So let's say you have this standard text ad in your account, and you're running the sale, students save 20% all January. It's very likely that come February 1st, you're not going to want to run that ad just because of the nature of your business, the fact that that sale is going to stop running in January. So typically, this is a fairly mundane process for most of us who have been doing paid search. What you do is you just simply change that description line to, or wherever that promo existed, and you update it to include some kind of information for the month of February. And that's a fairly standard thing. You'd be able to go in, you'd be able to find all of your ads that contained that phrase and change it out. And this is something that would admittedly take you maybe 10 or 15 minutes the morning of February 1st. Unfortunately, the morning of February 1st for you isn't going to look like that this year because this text ad format will no longer exist. That means that the morning of February 1st, you not only need to write in that new description line, but you'd also effectively need to go in and identify a new call to action across all of your accounts. You would need to go in and create a second headline for every one of your ads. So that's not something that you necessarily want to wake up Wednesday, February 1st and go in and do across all of your accounts at 9 a.m. in the morning, particularly when you have to make these updates. You don't want to be caught in a situation where you'd have to update your entire account the morning of after this migration just because that standard text ad is depreciating. So that's what I want to talk about now, is I want to talk about planning our ETA migration. We know the day that these standard text ads are no longer going to be around for us to create and around for us to edit. So I want to talk about getting us ahead of the schedule and how to make from the transition from today to February 1st, 2017, a smooth and seamless one, so that the morning of February 1st, you, your boss, your clients, everyone in your office isn't running around trying to make sense of it all. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat this, I know that the drop dead date isn't until January 31st, but it coincides well with what we're going through right now. And I want to basically use this as an opportunity to plan a New Year's resolution. And for you guys, I want to treat it as a New Year's resolution that we're going to start today to get your accounts over to these expanded text ads. And so, let's start talking about a New Year's resolution. Most popular New Year's resolution is always to lose weight or start going to the gym or get in shape or train for that marathon. I would know that because I've been training for the same marathon for the past 3 New Year's. But naturally what happens is January 1st, you go to the gym and you book a membership at a gym and you really work out. And January 2nd, you go back to the gym, you spend hours at the gym, and you're doing this machine, you're doing these exercises, and then the 3rd you go back, and the 4th, and you're very good about it for a week or so. But then the next week, you wake up and everything's sore and things aren't going well, and you just don't have the energy to go back. And typically what happens is people fizzle out of these New Year's resolutions when they try and go hard at it without a very solid plan. When their plan is that they're just going to work hard, it's hard to commit to that in the long term. And so if you were to actually go to the gym and you were to be successful with your New Year's resolution, what they'd likely do is that personal trainer or that assistant would likely spend some time and create a schedule for you for several weeks on exactly what you should do and how you should progress over time so that you don't burn yourself out and so you also don't strain anything in your body. And that's effectively what I want to do with you guys today too, is I want to create a schedule for you so that you can follow this prescription so that over the next 6 weeks, we can really plan out exactly how you're going to progress to reach your New Year's resolution. So feel free, open your calendar app, jot this down right on your calendar itself. But today, all I want to do today is I want to thank you for attending this webinar. Showing up is genuinely half the battle, and I hope that you get a lot out of it. So it's late in the afternoon right now, so I don't want to pretend that this is something that you're going to complete today, but thank you for showing up. I hope that you get a lot of notes out of it. Feel free. My Twitter's there. WordStream's Twitter. Q&A is coming up. Please get everything you can out of this. And then for the rest of the week, Thursday and Friday, I just want you to look through your best performing ads, specifically your best performing standard text ads. What messages have served you the best over time? Because we're going to use that information in a big way to plan your expanded text ads. And there's a lot of tools out there. There are a lot of ways to find your best performing ads. You can go into the AdWords interface and you can do this blind, and there's so many metrics that you can look at to make that evaluation. We do have a tool for doing this specifically, that if there's so many ads in your account that you don't really know where to begin looking, by all means, we have a tool. Where it lives is wordstream.com/Google AdWords. What that tool is effectively going to do is it's going to go through, it's going to read through all the ads in your account, and it's going to really bubble up your best performing ads on both desktop and on mobile, and see exactly which messages work best on that and which messages are the worst on those devices as well, and give you some kind of perspective for what is and isn't working in your account. So what I want you to use that data so that on Monday we can look and create 5 new expand text ads. And so I'm just going to focus on creating 5 expand text ads. And so all of this, these next 3 days effectively, next 3 work days, creating 5 ads. That's the equivalent of a couple of tweets. It's absolutely something we do, but I want to take our time, and I want our first ones to be good ones, so that we can really get a lot of meaningful information out of it. So take your best messaging from your standard text ads, see what really resonates with that, and then use that messaging to create these expanded text ads. Let those run for a week, and then after the holiday, come in and see exactly how did they do. These expanded text ads. Did these 5 expanded text ads outperform their standard text ad counterparts in these ad groups? If yes, great. If not, then let's review it and see exactly what worked well, which of these 5 worked well, and which of these 5 didn't work well. That's going to be used so that the following day we can write 10 more. If our first 5 performed well, let's keep that formula going. If the first 5 didn't work well, well then let's try 10 more using a different kind of message in those ads. Let's let those run. And I know that that's kind of a silly thing to say, that from now until the end of the year I only want to create 15 expand text ads across all of my accounts and hope that it's going to begin to make a change. And so the good thing here is that we can actually do a lot of ad testing in a small number of ad groups and still get a lot of results out of it. When we look across quite literally, here I'm pulling from our MCC and I'm looking across quite literally 500,000 ad groups. And we see the fact that just naturally, that first 5, the top 5% of our traffic, the top 5% of our ad groups generally create more than half of our traffic through all of our clients' websites. The first 10% accounts for 90% of all the traffic to our clients' websites. So this is one of those things that even if you have a large account, even if you have hundreds or thousands of ad groups, there's naturally going to be only a handful of them that drive a significant amount of traffic. And that's really where I want to spend our time focusing, because that's really where most of the activity in your account is going to come from. Most of the success, most of the failure in your account is going to come from. So I want to focus our time, in the early phases to really just figure out what messaging is going to do well in those ad groups. Because come 2017, it's still going to be the case that those are the ad groups that are going to drive success or failure for you. And then throughout the rest of January, I effectively just want to create a calendar that is going to help you hit the other 80% of your ad groups. Here we can still borrow from those messages from your top ad groups and duplicate them across those remaining ad groups. A lot of these long tail keyword ad groups, or a lot of these tangential keyword ad groups that don't produce a whole lot of traffic, but we still want to make sure that they're running with expanded text ads before the drop dead date at the end of January. And so what I'm doing with my team here at WordStream is I'm having everyone plan to finish for January 23rd. You like to, whenever you're creating a calendar like this, you always want to give yourself a little time to adjust so that come Monday the 30th, kind of your last couple of days of being able to do anything with these standard text ads, you have that dedicated time today, right now, while we're planning, to adjust and review and make sure that you didn't miss anything along the way. And so obviously, as you talk about larger accounts, this becomes a larger and initiative in the month of January to make sure that you've hit all of your ad groups and that you've migrated all of your ad groups to these expanded text ad formats, so that come February you don't have any surprises that you didn't accidentally miss an ad group or something like that. And so again, we have a tool to help with that migration as well. That wordstream.com/Google AdWords tool. One aspect of that greater tool is that it physically will go through and it will see exactly how many active ad groups you have and how many of your ad groups are specifically running expanded text ads. And I know that just from the perspective of managing multiple clients and managing a team that manages thousands of clients, that it's very easy to lose yourself in just how that process is going, particularly when you've hit all of those big ad groups, how many of the small ad groups still haven't been migrated over. So please, if you haven't checked it out, this wordstream.com/Google AdWords Grader, all it's going to do is it's going to help you prepare that pacing as you move forward. And now, while you're creating all these expanded text ads, please don't stop your standard text ads. It's still a best practice to let your old ads run alongside your ETAs until you're confident that they perform better, either via their click-through rate metrics or their conversion rate metrics. At the end of the day, you just want to make sure that before you turn off your standard text ads, just like any other A/B test, that expanded text ad format is going to outperform the standard text ad format. And we do see, on average, that most people are very successful with the expanded text ads. Like I said earlier, most people are seeing click-through rate gains between 20 and 30%, which is phenomenal. However, there are some people who, in their first iteration with expanded text ads, will often struggle and may see either click-through rate declines or conversion rate declines in their first batch of expanded text ads. And I want to talk a lot today about those best practices and about ways to make that migration successful, so that you don't fall into this cohort. And the big thing that if I teach you one thing today about expanded text ads, it's that creating these new expanded text ads means that you are going to have to write new ads. This is not a situation where you can get away with just like adding on a second headline or just adding on a couple of characters to your existing formula from standard text ads. And so when Google first announced these expanded text ads, this is a picture from that event where they first unveiled these standard text ads to the general public. And they took this Guitar Center ad and they made it into this Guitar Center expanded text ad where they just added in this second headline, the destination for music gear ad, but they didn't use the extra space to say anything more. And this kind of practice, when people have done exactly what Google did with Guitar Center here, is where we really see people stumble when they're beginning to make their migration themselves. And of course, it's a very natural place to stumble. You've had a lot of testing in a 90-character ad format for 16 years. You, of course, feel like you have a good ad right now. Unfortunately, it seldom translates over to these expanded text ad formats. So please use the new space to say something new and really write something new. I have a client, namely, is an HR software. And I'm not sure if there's anyone in the audience who is really excited about HR software, but if I were to be completely honest, it's not something that I'm particularly excited about either. It's really difficult to get people excited or jazzed about HR software. And so for the longest time, namely struggled with writing 90-character ads to really make HR software an exciting, a fun, a sellable thing on the SERP. And really just wrote a bunch of ads about onboarding software. in the expanded text ad format, namely really took it as a challenge to write something new and to make themselves stand out a little bit from everyone else who's writing this onboarding software or HR software out on the SERP. So they wrote this ad, employee onboarding software, easy paperless onboarding. Hiring and difficult, onboarding should be easy. Schedule your demo today. And that ad right there has a number of value props. It has a number of emotional appeals to it, as opposed to just a generic keyword stuffed ad on the SERP. And what we saw is when Namely took that opportunity to write a brand new ad, use the space to say something new, they had a 400% higher click-through rate on the expanded text ad as opposed to the standard text ad format. So please use the additional characters to say additional things. A lot of us, when we're writing 90-character ads, we fell into a lot of simple motifs. So we would say things that were either keyword stuff, or we'd immediately pitch our product or service to people who are searching for that product or service, people who are searching for used textbooks. We gave them an ad that just said used textbooks for sale. Here, let's start a conversation. Let's use the additional characters to start a conversation or headlines. Why pay full price? Buy, use, and save. Those kinds of messages. We see that a lot of people who begin their first headline with a question and their second headline with an answer is a common practice in the expanded text ads. And provided that it's not, that you're not setting up a stupid conversation, a stupid question and answer, it's a successful one. A lot of us would borrow instances of, like, we all know that fear of missing out, that sense of urgency is an important one, and we would all say things like, sale ends soon, which is kind of vague. And it's something that literally everyone would say on the SERP. So you would have 8 ads on the SERP, and they all would say, sale ends soon, or buy now, or something along those lines. And we can use the additional characters in our description text to really create genuine fear of missing out, to create a genuine sense of urgency. One thing that's super successful is by using ad customizers, that adding in the sale ends in, and then adding a countdown to that day. How that countdown would read is sale ends in blank days, or if it's ended that day, sale ends in blank hours. And so that simply takes up that additional 6, 7 characters on it that you gain in your description text. So this is a very natural way of expanding out your existing messaging. And best part is that that countdown functionality is now natively integrated within the ad format itself. So it's very simple. Then a lot of us, we all know that's a best practice to include a call to action in our ads, but a lot of us, out of character limits, couldn't really create a meaningful call to action. So we'd include some kind of message to a free trial, check us out, learn more, some kind of 10-character simple call to action to finish off our ads. And so here, please, if you're using one of those, a best practice is to really go through and identify a new call to action or highlight unique value props instead. That's kind of what we did with Namely. Rather than talking about download a free demo of our HR software, we highlighted easy paperless onboarding anywhere, anytime. And that's just an effective way to use your additional characters to say something new. That's the big thing, is it's super easy for us to say more, but really not say anything new. You want to make sure that every word you add to your expanded text ads means something. And that if you're just adding words for the sake of hitting a new character limit, you're effectively saying less. Second big tip is to include top keywords in these new path fields. So we know that this path, what's effectively the new display URL, you don't necessarily, it is not required that you include these path fields. However, it is the best practice. Not only would including top keywords here mean that your ad is going to be more relevant, that's going to help your quality score, but it's also just going to resonate with users as they search, particularly users when a user searches for a keyword and that keyword is in the ad copy, that keyword becomes bolded and it genuinely draws the eye toward the ad itself. So it's a fast way to increase your quality score. It's a fast way to increase your ad relevancy. And it's also a fast way to resonate with users and increase your click-through rate as well. And it is possible from the path fields to include something like dynamic keyword insertion, so that you wouldn't even necessarily need to go in and write all of your ads to include these keywords. You could just have Google do it for you. Third best practice, using ad customizers to create mobile preferred ETAs. And so this is kind of a big deal, particularly when we talk about mobile being between 50 and 60% of all search volume in the UK or in the US or in Canada. And then in the international community, a lot more of developing nations are increasingly more mobile than it is in the West. And so when we would create mobile preferred standard text ads, we always had the option, if we wanted to write some message that would only appear to people who are searching on mobile, we could do that by checking off that message, that box for device preference, create a mobile preferred ad, and then saying something different to people who are searching on mobile. Call us, text us, as opposed to arrive at our site and download a white paper. Catering our message to a mobile audience. But one of the first things that people really noticed, and one of the first things people really took offense to on the expanded text ads, is that there's no mobile preferred button here. That by default, all of our expanded text ads automatically serve on all devices the same way. And that was a frustrating point for people who really had a mobile-specific strategy or a mobile-specific call to action. And so this is something that Google's not really saying a lot about. It's something that they're kind of keeping secret. But if you wanted to create mobile-preferred ETAs, it's still possible to do. Effectively, what you'd have to do, though, is you'd have to get into the API data through a backdoor. And so what you do is you go through, under your shared library, under your business data, you're going to upload new ad customizer data. And you're going to title it something. Here, in this example, I title it mobile ETAs. You just want to make sure that you title it something that you're going to recognize as being this mobile preferred ad copy. And then effectively what you're doing is you're creating a feed, which is just a spreadsheet, an Excel doc, a Google doc, whatever you want to call it. But you're just going to create a feed that hinges around this device preference. So very simply, you're going to write two headlines or two different reference points, if that's a headline or if that's a path field or if that's a description line. You want to include that field that you're referencing in there, and then that device preference is going to be either be all or mobile. Then when you're writing out your expanded text ads, the syntax is right there, bracket equals that feed name, so here mobile ETAs, dot attribute name. So here what I'm saying is I'm trying to change headline 1 for someone who is searching on mobile versus desktop. And all it's going to do is Google is going to render that headline differently depending on whether or not someone is searching on desktop or mobile. So it's a little roundabout way of doing it, but if mobile is a big part of your account, and increasingly mobile is becoming a big part in people's accounts, and you want to cater your ads to speak to that mobile audience, this is important to do so. The fourth best practice we're going to talk about in making sure that our migration goes smoothly is reviewing our ad extensions. And so this may seem a little tangential to writing our expanded text ads, that it's naturally a different part of search altogether that we're not writing expanded text ads when we're reviewing ad extensions. But it's very likely when you created these ad extensions, for the longest time, the best practice was to use these ad extensions to say, more things, that your 90-character ad couldn't say everything that your business did. To use things like site links, call outs, structured snippets to say these new things. However, now that your ads are larger, you might naturally include more information in those ads, which is great. That's the point of writing expanded text ads. But the big thing here is that you need to make sure that when you write these new ads, that they're not also being fed by your site links or by your callouts or by your other ad extensions. And the reason being that Google isn't ever going to serve redundant or repetitive ad extensions. So if you currently are in a situation like this bookseller ad where they have students always save 20% or this used book site link, these are site links that won't serve with these new ads, with these particular new expanded text ads. You just need to make sure that if you want to keep performance steady as you make this migration, that you go through and you consistently review your expanded text, you review your ad extensions to make sure that they aren't repetitive and that they aren't redundant from what you're currently saying in your new ad format. And really, this just presents new opportunities to say new things in your ad extensions as well. And then finally, don't forget about Bing. I know that I spent so much of this time talking about what's going on in Google and talking about what's going on. I feel like that's half the life of paid search anyways, is talking about what's going on in Google. But ETAs are also now available in Bing too. So this happened, I believe, in mid-October. So they're fairly new in Bing, but they are killing it in Bing. We're saying that the average click-through rate gain in Google is about 28% from the standard text ad to expanded text ad, and we're seeing that gain on Bing be incredibly larger, basically about 50% larger. So people are seeing between 30 and 40% click-through rate gains on Bing, which is huge for Bing, particularly as you talk about Bing being a smaller market. The fact that they're almost increasing it by a third means a large thing for people who are on Bing, and it presents a real opportunity for people who have dismissed Bing in the past, that this new click-through rate with the expanded text ads is significant, particularly when you think about how Bing, they still have the right-hand rail. Two headlines on the right-hand ads are doing fantastic. So Bing, this is probably one of the smartest moves I've seen from Bing in a long time, to be totally honest, that this is really revolutionizing how people are doing paid search on the platform. So please, making the migration to Bing is fairly easy. You can create all these expanded text ads in Google and then just import them into Bing, and Bing is prepared to handle that migration just by importing it from Google. So if you're ready, then you can start making ETAs, really start preparing that migration today and get started. Now, a lot of people are going to naturally say, wow, that's a lot of work, rewriting all my ads in my account. I'm not sure if I can do that, or I'm not sure I even want to do that. So there is a cheat to do this, to make this a lot easier. I don't recommend it, but if you're currently sitting there and you know that you're just not going to be able to get it ready by January, or if you know that your clients aren't going to want to try this ad format, but unfortunately they're going to have to because you have to create expanded text ads, there is a way around it. So effectively, your standard text ads today, when they're on the SERP, they'll look like this, where Google will automatically take their domain name and they'll preface their domain name to their standard text ads. So wayfair.com, and then it opens into their standard text ad. And Google's been doing this for about 9 months, basically since February when they killed off the right-hand side ads. this is how your standard text ads have been looking. If you wanted to, if you really didn't want to create expanded text ads, you could do exactly this by creating a headline 1 that was just your domain name and importing that to all of your standard, importing that to all of your expanded text ads, and then creating your existing headline as headline 2, merging your lines of description text and writing your expanded text ads that way. It works. It won't change the click-through rate of your ads. It won't change the conversion rate of your ads. Your accounts will continue to perform exactly as they did before, but what they won't do is they won't perform better like we'd expect them to under the expanded text ad format. So if you currently have a boss or you currently have a client who's just going to drag their feet throughout this expanded text ad migration, this is a way around it where there's on the SERP, their ads will still show exactly the same. I don't recommend it, obviously, but for those of you who are having that objection handling, this is the way to approach that. And then just one last change. While I have everyone on the webinar, it's important for me to also address the fact that display ads are also changing. And specifically, that's the fact that Flash as we've known it for, since the early days of the internet, is on its way out. Over time, Firefox stopped supporting Flash by default about 18 months ago in July of 2015. Then when Apple updated their operating system at the end of the summer or in September of this year, they stopped supporting Flash and Safari in all of their iOS browsers. And starting at the end of this month, Google Chrome, the world's most popular, most used internet browser, is going to stop supporting Flash by default. So all said and done, roughly 60–70% of the reach that you used to get out of your Flash ads is effectively gone today. But more importantly, starting next month in 2017, Google AdWords is going to stop running Flash ad formats to all advertisers on all devices in all browsers. So that means that even if you're still inking out, that 30% share that still can see Flash ads, you're effectively going to lose that in 2.5 weeks. So if you still rely on Flash ads in your campaigns, it's important that you replace them as soon as possible. And I recognize that, 15 days left in the year and the holidays coming up, it's not going to be easy or natural to hit up a graphic designer or bring someone in to replace all of the ad formats, all of your display ads that you have. So there is a fast solution to this as well. You can create these responsive display ads. And so the responsive display ad format is also fairly new. It's also very easy to create. I was able to create this WordStream ad in about 2.5 minutes, and I am not a graphic designer by any measure. It is not the world's greatest display ad, but what we are seeing is that it is outperforming a number of other static or another number of older Flash ads by roughly 3 to 4 times its click-through rate. So you're seeing click-through rates of around 0.4% on this, which is fantastic for display and particularly fantastic for someone who doesn't have a whole lot of graphic design potential in-house. So creating these, you just have to specify a short headline, a long headline, give Google some description text to play around with, and then give it a large image and a logo. And Google automatically renders these ads to fit any size ad formats. You don't have to go in, you don't have to create 13 or 16 different banner, skyscraper, square ads to ensure your reach across the Google Display Network. And this is going to easily make migrating away from Flash considerably easier. So anyways, thank you guys for listening to me talk so much today. I believe, Michelle, you have a couple of special offers for people who stuck around.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks so much, Mark. Tons of great information there. We did get a few questions, so we're definitely going to get to those. While we handle the question and answers here, we have some special offers for you all today. So 3 different options here. Would you like a one-on-one AdWords assessment with WordStream? Free one-on-one AdWords assessment, which is a demo of our software, or if you don't need any help at all with your PPC. So you can go ahead and check which one applies to you, and we're going to talk a little bit to Mark about these questions that came in. So Mark, you talked a lot about the expanded text ads, but can you go over just one more time what is going to happen to the standard text ads? Are they going to disappear? What's the deal?
Okay, so January 31st is the last day that you can create and edit standard text ads. And at that point, moving forward, you'd only be able to create expanded text ads. So Google hasn't announced a date that they're going to stop showing the standard text ads. But Google actually this week finally did confirm, yes, they are going away. So that's known, that they are going away likely sometime in early 2017. We don't have a date yet, but we're a software company. We use the API a lot, and we have a lot of specs, a lot of engineers in house who are frequently looking at the API. And so one of the early specs that we have, the API as it exists is currently being sunset and replaced by a new version of the API in early March. So right now what we don't see is the standard text ads supported in that early March API. So that to me says that Google is likely going to make that change, stop serving those standard text ads in early March. That's not official. It could be that that API currently doesn't support that, but reading the writing on the wall says to me that Google is going to make this change fairly quickly and isn't going to keep these underperforming old text ads around for all that much longer. So I'd rather prepare people to make that migration fully by the end of January than to keep them on pretending like it's going to be something that they'll have for a long period of time. On the Bing side, Bing has said, and they've worded it exactly like this, that they will continue supporting standard text ads throughout all of 2016 and the first quarter of 2017. And so that's great. It means that we'll be able to create these standard text ads on Bing at least through the end of March. But the way that they've worded that suggests to me that they're not going to support it sometime in Q2 of 2017.
Gotcha. Another question. So someone in the audience today says when they run ads on Google AdWords, they're getting a lot of impressions, but not a great click-through rate. Is there any pointers you have to improve the click-through rate?
Yeah, so if it's just a matter of the standard text ad performed well and the expanded text ad didn't perform well, then I treat this just like any other A/B test. Obviously, it's a new ad format. The rules of the game are a little bit different, but there's still going to be a lot of ad testing required over the next month or over the next couple of years, to be totally honest. That a lot of people are going to create expanded text ads that right off the bat don't perform well. You do want to make sure that the messaging you have in your expanded text ads reads naturally. So maybe get someone who doesn't do paid search on your team to read your expanded text ads and read to make sure that they make sense to someone who hasn't seen the standard text ads. A lot of cases where you see poor click-through rates in the expanded text ads comes from people who are so used to playing that 90-character game that they forget almost how to read the ads as they appear on the SERP. So that's reading headline 1, headline 2 in that order as a conversation, as opposed to individual items on the SERP. So I would honestly just review those expanded text ads, make sure that they still make sense conversationally, and if they truly aren't performing as well, replace them with something else. This is a good time. A lot of people are out there. A lot of people are making this migration. This is an important time to be testing a lot of different things.
Great. And one last question. You spoke about the standard text ads and what's going to happen with them, but what about the data on the standard text ads? Is that going to disappear when they do?
I don't expect the data to go away. Google's really good about whenever they go through a migration like this. They announce well in advance that the data will go away if it's going to. So I'm thinking specifically a couple years ago when we did the enhanced campaign migration. We did lose access to a lot of our traditional campaigns, but we still maintained the data around those campaigns, even after they were paused or removed. Conversely, when earlier this year, around the same time that Google made these expanded text ads and announced that migration, when Google made the announcement about converted clicks going away, they said 9 months in advance that we were going to lose data on converted clicks, and that if we cared to keep that history, we should download it. Here they didn't say that, which to me screams that they're going to keep it around at least for a good amount of time to allow people to make those adjustments as they need. I'd say that there's no reason, there's never a reason to not download these data if you're afraid of losing something, but it doesn't sound like to me that Google has any intention of getting rid of this data either.
Gotcha, great. Thanks for clarifying, Mark. So that just about does it for the time that we have today. Again, we'd like to thank you all for joining us and thank Mark for all of his knowledge on this topic. You all look out in your email inboxes. You'll be getting an email with today's recording and the slide deck. Thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see you on a future webinar.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming.